I knew my marriage was over when my husband pulled out a chair for another woman on our anniversary.
Not just any woman. His ex-wife. And the worst part? He didn't even look embarrassed.
He smiled at her like she belonged there.
Then he looked at me and said, "Don't make this weird." That's when I knew exactly what I had to do.
But before I get to that dinner, I need to explain how I ended up married to a man who thought humiliating me in public was normal. I'm 34 years old, and my husband, Mark, is 38. When I met him, he seemed perfect.
Not perfect like fake Instagram perfect.
Perfect like safe. He was calm, charming, mature, and always knew the right thing to say. I had just come out of a bad relationship, and Mark made me feel like I could finally breathe again.
He opened doors. He remembered small details. He texted me every morning. He told me I was different from anyone he had ever met. And honestly, I believed him. 3 months into dating, he told me about his ex-wife, Vanessa.
He said their marriage ended because they were better as friends.
That should have been my first warning.
Because no one says better as friends unless the story is more complicated than they want to admit.
But at the time, I thought it was a green flag.
I thought, wow, he's mature enough to be civil with his ex. I had no idea civil meant she would be sitting in my kitchen, drinking my coffee, wearing my husband's old hoodie, 2 years later.
At first, Vanessa was just a name. Then she became a text message.
Then she became a phone call.
Then she became, "Can Vanessa stop by quickly? She needs help moving something." Then she became, "Vanessa is coming for dinner. I forgot to tell you."
And somehow, every time I felt uncomfortable, Mark made me feel like I was the problem. If I asked why she called him late at night, he said, "She doesn't have anyone else." If I asked why he still paid for her car insurance, he said, "It's complicated." If I asked why she had a key to our house, he said, "She had it before you moved in."
Before I moved in.
That phrase became his shield. Every time I questioned something, he reminded me that Vanessa had been in his life first.
And I was supposed to be okay with that.
The first time I really felt like an outsider in my own marriage was 6 months after our wedding.
I came home early from work with a migraine.
The house was quiet, but I heard laughing in the living room. I walked in and saw Mark and Vanessa sitting on the couch, looking through old photo albums.
Wedding photos. Their wedding photos. Vanessa had her legs tucked under her like she lived there.
Mark was laughing at some picture of them dancing. When he saw me, he jumped a little.
Not guilty enough to apologize. Just guilty enough to know it looked bad. Vanessa smiled and said, "Oh, hey. We were just reminiscing." Reminiscing. In my house. With my husband. Over their wedding. I looked at Mark and asked, "Why are you doing this here?"
His face changed instantly. That soft, charming husband disappeared.
He said, "Don't start." I asked, "Don't start what?" He said, "You always make everything about you." That sentence stunned me. Because I wasn't trying to make everything about me.
I was asking why my husband was emotionally cuddled up with his ex-wife while looking at proof that he once promised forever to someone else.
Vanessa stood up and said, "Maybe I should go." But she didn't look upset. She looked entertained.
Like she enjoyed watching him choose her comfort over mine.
After she left, Mark and I had a huge argument.
I told him I felt disrespected.
He told me I was insecure. I told him there needed to be boundaries. He told me I was controlling.
I told him I didn't want Vanessa having a key to our house.
He said, "Fine. I'll ask for it back." He never did.
And I stopped asking because every conversation ended with me apologizing for having feelings.
That's how it happens sometimes. It's not one huge betrayal at first.
It's 100 tiny moments where someone teaches you that peace only exists if you stay quiet.
So I stayed quiet. I stayed quiet when Vanessa accidentally left her earrings in Mark's car.
I stayed quiet when she posted old photos of them on Facebook with captions like, "Some people will always be home."
I stayed quiet when Mark forgot my birthday dinner because Vanessa's dog had a vet appointment and she couldn't handle it alone.
But I did not stay quiet when I found the bank statements.
That happened 3 weeks before our anniversary.
I was looking for a tax document in Mark's desk because we were supposed to file jointly. He was usually very private about his paperwork, but that day he was at the gym, and I needed the form. While searching, I found a folder labeled V. I wish I could say I respected his privacy and closed it.
I didn't. Because something in my stomach dropped before I even opened it. Inside were receipts. Bank transfers. Loan documents. Credit card payments. All connected to Vanessa. At first, I thought maybe they were old. Then I checked the dates. They weren't old. Some were from the week before. My husband had been sending his ex-wife money every month. Not small amounts. Hundreds. Sometimes thousands.
He had paid her rent twice. He had covered her car repairs. He had paid for a business coaching program she apparently needed.
And then I found the worst one. A transfer of £8,000.
The note said, "For the salon deposit."
Don't stress. I'll handle her. Her. Me.
I sat on the floor of his office, staring at that sentence.
I'll handle her. Like I was some obstacle. Like I was a problem to manage. Not his wife. Not his partner.
Not the person whose income had been helping cover the household while he claimed he was tight this month.
Because that was the other part.
For almost a year, Mark had been telling me money was tight.
He asked me to cover more groceries. More bills. A bigger share of the mortgage.
He said his freelance work was inconsistent. He said we had to be careful.
I canceled trips. I stopped buying things for myself. I felt guilty ordering takeaway.
Meanwhile, he was funding his ex-wife's dream salon.
I didn't confront him immediately. That was probably the smartest thing I did.
Old me would have screamed.
Old me would have cried.
Old me would have given him the chance to twist the story before I understood it.
Instead, I took pictures of everything. Every receipt. Every transfer. Every note. Then I put the folder back exactly where I found it.
That night, Mark came home and kissed my forehead like nothing had happened.
He asked what was for dinner. I almost laughed.
For the next 3 weeks, I watched him carefully.
And once you see the truth, you can't unsee it.
Every time he turned his phone away, I noticed. Every time he said Vanessa just needed advice, I heard money. Every time he complained about bills, I saw that £8,000 transfer in my mind.
Then came our anniversary. Our 5th wedding anniversary.
I had made a reservation at a nice restaurant. Not the fanciest place in the city, but nice enough that I bought a new dress.
I was actually nervous in a hopeful way. That sounds stupid now. But a small part of me still wanted him to prove me wrong.
I wanted him to show up as my husband. I wanted one night where Vanessa didn't exist.
When we arrived, Mark seemed distracted. He kept checking his phone. I asked if everything was okay. He said, yeah. Just work.
10 minutes later, he stood up and waved toward the entrance.
I turned around.
And there she was.
Vanessa. In a red dress. Holding a gift bag.
Walking toward our table like she had been invited.
Because she had. Mark smiled and said, surprise. I looked at him. I said, what is this?
He said, Vanessa wanted to celebrate with us. She was part of my life before all this, so it felt wrong to exclude her.
Exclude her. From my anniversary dinner. Vanessa sat down across from me and smiled.
She said, don't worry.
I'm not here to steal your husband. Then she laughed. Mark laughed too. I didn't. The waiter came over and asked if we were ready to order drinks. Vanessa ordered champagne. Expensive champagne. Mark said, put it on my card. I looked at him and said, your card? He gave me a warning look. That look meant behave. That look meant don't embarrass me. That look meant if you react, I'll make you the villain. So I smiled.
I said, actually, champagne sounds perfect.
Mark relaxed. Vanessa looked pleased. They started talking about old memories. Their first apartment. Their honeymoon disaster. A restaurant they used to love.
I sat there listening to my husband and his ex-wife turn my anniversary into their reunion tour.
Then Vanessa put the gift bag on the table.
She said, I got something for both of you.
Inside was a framed photo. Of the 3 of us.
From a barbecue at Mark's brother's house.
Except in the photo, Vanessa was standing next to Mark. I was on the edge. Almost cropped out. She said, I thought it was cute. Like modern family energy. I stared at the photo. Then I looked at Mark. He was smiling. Actually smiling. And something inside me went completely calm. Not angry. Not hurt. Calm.
That dangerous kind of calm where your heart finally stops begging someone to love you correctly.
I excused myself and went to the bathroom. But I didn't go to the bathroom. I went outside.
I called my friend Rachel, who also happened to be my solicitor.
She answered and said, happy anniversary. I said, can you come to La Mer? She paused. Why?
I said, because I'm about to end my marriage and I want a witness.
Rachel arrived 20 minutes later. By then, I was back at the table.
Vanessa was telling Mark how proud she was of him for being such a supportive man.
I almost choked on my water.
When Rachel walked in, Mark looked confused.
He said, who's this? I said, my friend Rachel. Vanessa smiled politely.
Then I added, she's also my solicitor.
The table went silent. Mark's face changed. What are you doing? I smiled and said, celebrating. Rachel sat beside me.
The waiter came over with the champagne.
I raised my glass.
I said, to 5 years of marriage, hidden bank transfers, and men who invite their ex-wives to anniversary dinners.
Vanessa's smile disappeared. Mark whispered, "Stop." I said, "No, Mark. I actually think I've been stopping for years." He leaned across the table and said, "You're making a scene." I said, "Not yet." Then I opened my phone and started reading. £1,200 to Vanessa for rent. Mark went pale. £460 for car repairs. Vanessa looked at him. £2,300 for business coaching. Rachel sat silently, watching. £8,000 for a salon deposit. Note, don't stress. I'll handle her. I looked directly at Vanessa when I read that part. She looked away. Mark said, "You went through my private documents?" I said, "Funny. That's your concern?" He said, "You had no right." I laughed. "Neither did you. But at least I didn't use your money to fund my ex." He snapped, "It wasn't your money." That was his second mistake. Because Rachel finally spoke. She said, calmly, "Actually, based on the shared household finances and the way expenses were divided, that's going to be an interesting argument." Mark stared at her. Vanessa started gathering her things. I said, "No, Vanessa. Stay. You wanted to celebrate with us." She said, "I don't want to be involved." I said, "You involved yourself when you accepted money from a married man while his wife paid the bills." Her face flushed. She said, "He told me you knew." I looked at Mark. He looked down. And there it was. The first honest thing Vanessa had said all night. She thought I knew. Which meant Mark had lied to both of us. For a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then she said, "But honestly, you always seemed so cold, so I assumed you didn't care." And just like that, the sympathy vanished. I said, "I cared. I just had a husband who trained me to shut up." Mark stood up. "We're leaving." I stayed seated. "No. You're leaving. I'm finishing dinner." He said, "Don't be ridiculous." I said, "You brought another woman to our anniversary. Ridiculous already happened." Rachel put a folder on the table. It wasn't divorce papers yet. But it was the beginning. A separation agreement draft. Financial disclosure request. Asset protection advice. Things she had helped me prepare quietly over the past week, once I told her what I found. Mark stared at the folder like it might explode. I said, "I'll be staying at my sister's tonight. Tomorrow, we start separating finances. You'll receive the formal paperwork soon." He looked around the restaurant. People were definitely watching now. "Good." He lowered his voice and said, "You're really going to throw away 5 years over money?" I said, "No. I'm throwing away 5 years because you spent those years teaching me I came second in my own marriage." Vanessa stood up and muttered, "This is insane." I looked at her and said, "No, Vanessa. Insane was thinking you could attend my anniversary dinner and order champagne on my sacrifice." She left first. Mark followed her. Of course he did. That was the final answer I needed. The waiter came over awkwardly and asked what we wanted to do about the bill. Rachel looked at me. I looked at the champagne. Then I said, "Put his half on his card." He offered. Rachel laughed so hard she almost cried. I won't pretend the divorce was easy. It wasn't. Mark tried to make me look crazy. He told people I was jealous. He said I had ambushed him. He said Vanessa was just a friend. He said I embarrassed him publicly for no reason. So I did what I had done best by then. I kept receipts. And when his mother called to tell me I was destroying the family, I sent her the transfer screenshots. When his brother texted that I was overreacting, I sent him the anniversary dinner story. When Vanessa posted online about women who tear down other women, I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because 2 weeks later, her salon page quietly disappeared. Apparently, Mark had promised her more money. Money he no longer had access to. Because the moment I separated our accounts, his generous supportive man act got very expensive. The funniest part? Vanessa stopped talking to him. Not immediately. But once she realized the money was gone, so was her emotional emergency hotline. Mark called me one night around midnight. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. He sounded tired. He said, "I think I made a mistake. Not I hurt you. Not I betrayed you. Not I'm sorry. Just, I made a mistake." Like he had ordered the wrong meal. I deleted the voicemail. A month later, he tried again. This time he sent a long message saying Vanessa had manipulated him. He said she knew how to make him feel needed. He said he confused guilt with love. He said he never meant to make me feel less important. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I replied. "You didn't make me feel less important. You treated me like I was less important. There's a difference." He didn't reply. The divorce is almost final now. I kept my savings. I kept my dignity.
And most importantly, I kept the version of myself that almost disappeared trying to be understanding. Because that's the trap. People will tell you to be mature while they disrespect you. They'll tell you to be secure while they test every boundary. They'll call you jealous when your instincts are right. They'll ask you to trust them while hiding the exact things that would prove they can't be trusted. And then, when you finally react, they'll act shocked. Like the betrayal started when you stopped tolerating it. Looking back, I don't hate Vanessa. I don't even hate Mark. Hate takes too much energy. But I do hate how long I confused being patient with being powerless. I hate how many times I swallowed my own discomfort to keep a peace that only benefited him. And I hate that it took my husband inviting his ex-wife to our anniversary dinner for me to finally understand something. If someone keeps putting you in second place, stop competing. Leave the race. So yes, I invited my lawyer to dinner. Yes, I exposed him in public. Yes, people called me dramatic. But after 5 years of being quiet, dramatic felt like freedom. And if I had to do it all again? I'd order the champagne first.